Welcome to another episode of Budget Hunter. On this episode, I'm going to focus particularly on the deer drawing for those premium deer zones. I'm going to talk through a little bit about the drawing process. What are the premium zones? I'm going to look at success rates. So if you have a very low number of points and you're going into the premium drawing and you're trying to figure out, do I even have a chance? Going to look at some of the statistics that I've actually put together regarding that. And then I also want to look at some of the unrestricted areas, what some strategies might be for going for an unrestricted tag. So the first thing to look at here is that the deer drawing, just a quick reminder, is coming up on June 2nd, 2020. And there is all the information that you need available in the big game drawing book. And then I also like to reference the deer zone map, which is super helpful for being able to just visualize some of the boundaries. And then I'm also going to be using the 2018 statistics. I'm going to provide a link for this in the description. And then my 2019 analysis of some of those premium drawings. So we're going to use all three of those in order to talk through this in a little bit more detail. So going back to the big game book, what I want to talk through first is some of the descriptions of these different zones and how the process works for the premium drawing. So California is a 2-tag state for deer, which means that you have one opportunity to do a premium drawing, and then after that you can also get what's classified as a unrestricted tag. So there are zones A, B, C, D, and then also the X zone hunts. As you look at the map, you can see these are geographically focused. So the D zone is pretty much starting at the border with Mexico and Arizona, works up through most of Southern California, and then through Central California, all the way up until it borders with the C zone hunts. Your A zone is actually one large combo zone. It has the most tags available and most hunters that end up acquiring a tag. This is an unrestricted hunt. Then the X zones start down here right off the 395 and work all the way up to the northern part of the state. These are all premium zones that are very difficult to be able to get a tag without having years of points built up. Then up in Northern California, you have some of the C zone and the B zone, which are also unrestricted, and we'll talk through those when we get to that last section. So to start off with how the drawing works, the premium drawing, which happens on June 2nd, gives you an opportunity to be able to apply for one restricted deer hunt. And that drawing works between two different metrics. The first one is the number of points that you have. What they do is they take the people in the largest point categories. Let's say there were 100 tags available and 100 people applied who all had 10 preference points, which means they've had 10 years of accumulating points. What they would do is they would take those 100 people who all have that same point level, they would assign them a random number, and then they would issue out 90 tags to everyone who has that max number of points. Now, if it breaks down that you had 50 people with 10 and 50 people with 9, all the people with 10 would get their tags, and then between the 9, there'd be 40 of them that would get selected, and then whichever number are remaining, whether they had 10 points, 5 points, or no points, they all go in, 10% of them, into a random drawing. Now, the best way you can visualize some of those numbers, looking at the numbers is helpful for me, is that if you go down to some of the statistics regarding the 2019 drawing, which is located all the way down on page 26. So when we look at this, you can see how this plays out. You have a tag quota for a premium hunt. Let's take X1. You have 760 available. Of that, they take roughly 90%, which is 684, and those 90% end up going to those people with the max number of points. You can see on this chart that the highest point value that was awarded, so that this could have been one person, this could have been 100 people, but the maximum point value they gave out was 11, which means that that person waited 11 years to be able to go on that hunt and was not drawn for any other premium drawing during those 11 years. And then the remainder, those 76, went to the random drawing. And so out of a pool of 3,316 applicants, 684 were up in that upper echelon in terms of their points, and they went in that preference point drawing, and then the remainder, 76, went into the random drawing. You'll see on this form it says random drawing by first choice, by second choice, by third choice. This goes back to that big game drawing worksheet that I talked about in my first video on the drawing intro. So you have the opportunity to select up to 3 choices. That first choice is where you're going to want to put that premium tag, and you can see the majority of these premium tags are all distributed among the first choice. The only ones that would get pushed to the second or third choice is in a situation where they did not have anyone putting in as their first choice who ended up being in the random drawing. So what happened with some of these zones is there's so many tags available. It means that there's so many that can be given out to those with points that there are some people who maybe just decided, it says that up to 12, 13, 14 preference points. There could have been some people who just decided that this was their year, that they wanted to be able to get in a hunt in this area, and so they went ahead and applied their points to that hunt. But then for the remainder, most of them did not have this as their first choice. They were probably applying for one of these other premium drawings, and then this was the second or third choice on the worksheet. So be sure to look at that intro video to get some more info on that worksheet. So that's how the drawing works. You have premium points going to 90%, but you do have the random draw, and that's really actually a huge appeal for California, even for people who are applying out of state, because you have that opportunity. You don't have a bonus point situation. You don't have some states relegate a very, very small number of points, or maybe no opportunities for people who are not holding points to be able to get into some of their high premium controlled areas. But California, you do have that opportunity. One other thing I want to point out regarding this drawing is that if you are not selected, if your first choice is a premium hunt and you are not selected for that hunt, they'll then go down to your second choice, which if your second choice was also a premium hunt that had tags available, which would be this kind of a situation with maybe C, D6, or D9, you would be able to then pick up the premium tag there. But if you are not selected for your first choice, even if on your second choice you get one of these premium tags that has tags available, in that first choice, if you're not selected, you will still get a preference point. And so I really think of it as a free point, because you're still going to be able to get a tag to go hunt, but you do get to get a point and even get a chance at one of these random drawings. So I think it's definitely, I said in my first video in the intro to the drawing, to absolutely go for a premium hunt, and this is one of the reasons why. So let's go back and review real quickly some of these premium zones, and I'm going to focus my time on the X zones. I recognize that there are some D zones and C zone that are premium hunts. There are also additional G hunts that are very much sought after and have very few tags available. And then there's some apprentice hunts, and then also muzzleloader, area-specific archery hunts. Recognize that those are there. I'm going to focus on just the general season hunts in these zones. So going back to this map, as you start on the X zone and then work your way down, you can see that most of these hunts are focused on either the Sierras or up into the Modoc Forest. These areas right here, starting with X12, X9A, XB, some of these are extremely sought after, and if you look at some of the numbers from last year, you can see that X1 up in the north, you had 3,000 applicants, X2, 2,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,000, and then down in these areas, the X9A, 4,000, and X12 was 4,352, which I believe had the most applicants for the year for the limited number of tags. What I did here, and I'll make the spreadsheet available as well, is I did a little bit of an analysis, completely throwing out those premium tags, because I'm working off the perspective of if you have a low number of points or maybe 0 points, you're really counting on maybe being able to get something in the random drawing. And so what I did is I took the total number of applicants, I minused them out from those who were selected for the preference points. So what I did is I showed the number for those people who were in the random applicant pool, which could have been people who had points and those who didn't. And I looked at that random applicant pool, looked at the number of tags issued, and then I was able to get a percentage for the drawing success. So if you wanted to examine and look at what chance do I have in order to get drawn in the random drawing, here's a percentage analysis based upon the 2019 statistics. And most of these tags have roughly the same number available, and we can assume a similar number of applicants going into the next year. And so if we look at this, some of these areas like X5B has a 0.2% chance of getting drawn. There were 5 tags available and over 2,500 applicants. X12, over 4,000 applicants with 0.8% chance of being drawn. But surprisingly, some of these areas like X3B has a 4.4% chance. X9C had a 4.6% chance. And then what I was really shocked by was actually X10 had a 26% chance last year. Let me show you that zone because I think it's really interesting to look at. The X10 zone is right next to, it borders the X9B, which is a much more difficult zone to be drawn for. If you compare the two, the X9B, you have roughly a 3.5% chance to be drawn, where the X10, you have a 26% chance in the random drawing. Now, these areas don't have equivalent success rates, but what you do have is up here is the G3 hunt, which is the most sought after hunt in California for deer. So this area, I did a little bit of research on it, and right up here in the border with Bartlett and in the Cottonwood Creek, there's a campground up here. Right in this area, you could have a lot of push coming over from the X9B. Granted, the reverse could happen where those hunters in the X9B could be pushing the deer into X9, or X10 could be pushing into X9B. But I really thought that this was an interesting area to check out and might be a hunt worth applying for if you want to be able to get in for a premium hunt and you want to give this area a shot. I'd say, based upon my estimation, I'd say this could be just a couple day hunt. It's not a huge area, and you could come in, you can actually park up right on the northern side here, and as long as you're watching the borders and the roads that are up here, you can stay right within your zone and be basically borderline one of the most sought after premium zones in the state. I thought that was a really interesting one to look at. Now, what I did is I looked at the random applicants, random tags issued, the drawing success, and then took the 2018 statistics. This is available on the wildlife page, and I'll also make the link available in the description below. I looked at the hunter success rate. I worked off of the actual reported kills. They also do an estimate based upon the people who didn't report, but I went ahead and just stuck to the confirmed number of harvested deer. And based upon the 2019 drawings and the 2018 statistics, I was able to figure out essentially the chances that you have to not only get drawn as a random applicant for one of these zones, but then be able to actually have success. And so the zones that have a 1% or greater chance of you being drawn for that premium tag and then be able to actually have success are right here. So those are X6B, X1, X3B, X9B, X4, X3A, X9C, and then the last one, which again points me back to that same zone, was X10. Now you notice that the success rate for harvesting is definitely lower than these other areas, but 18% is actually a good percentage higher than a lot of the unrestricted tags, which is one of the reasons why this is still considered a premium tag. And so it's something worth considering, something worth looking at. I hope I don't push too many people to apply for it. It definitely changes the percentages, but it's one I would recommend if you have the opportunity to get up there. It's right in the Southern Sierras. It's worth a shot for sure. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this video is looking at some of the combo zones. So you have the opportunity in the state of California to actually get one tag that covers multiple zones or areas. So an example of this is the D13, 11, 15 combo tag. Now D15 is one of the worst areas in the state, has less than a 10% success rate. D11 has a little bit more than a 10% success rate. It's right around 12, and then D13 is right around 12 to 13%. So these aren't necessarily areas that have a huge success rates, but it is one where you have a lot of opportunity between the Los Angeles National Forest and then the beginning of the Los Padres National Forest to be able to get into various areas, and this is the zone that I'm planning on hunting in coming up this fall. One of the other opportunities that you have for a combo zone, which if I was closer I'd be really tempted to participate in, is this area up in the C zone. So what's interesting here is that there's slightly different seasons. They all start on September 21st, but they last a little bit later. But these are also one of the combo tags that's available. Now, if you want to get more information about some of these combo tags, I would suggest looking through the Big Game Digest, scroll up to the deer zone, up to that page that I was originally looking at, and you'll see in this area that there is a listing of each of those tags and the combos that are available. So if you come up here, C zone hunt tag, valid for zones C1 through 4. D 3 through 5 deer tags are valid in D 3 through 5, which we'll pop over to that real quick so you can look at it. So that's coming in this area, and this is actually up in the Sierra Mountains, right on the opposite side of these X zones. Now these definitely have lower success rates, they have much higher number of tags issued, and I've heard some people talk about how a lot of times what happens is the hunters that come into these areas have so many numbers that they actually push the deer into the X zones. But these might be ones, especially if you're going out on opening day and you have a good spot that's not too crowded, it might be a good opportunity because you have a large area that you can cover. And then the D11, 13, and 15 tag can be used in any of those zones. So there's a lot of opportunities that are here. I would highly recommend trying to pick one premium zone to go for. Like I said, I'll make this spreadsheet available so you can spend a little bit more time to examine it and look into what opportunities you might have to be drawn. And then I would also recommend that you try to find one of these combo zones that's located on this map. Try to find a combo zone where you can really get a tag, pick the exact area you want to be, and not feel too locked down to one particular zone or area. Well, if you have any comments or questions or maybe tips that you would recommend to other people regarding this drawing and these zones, or if you're willing to even share some of your favorite spots in some of the unrestricted areas, please share in the comments below. Like always, please like, comment on the video, share it. I really appreciate it. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.